Hi everyone, Lisa Haven here, and I have a very serious report to share with you. Now here's the deal. This report, well, it could get me in trouble with the far left just for saying what I have to say. But I've thought about it long and hard, and I think it needs to be said. Now here's what's going on. I'm going to give you a little bit of backup information to kind of before I jump to my overall conclusion. But let me show you something. There are a lot of things being blamed on the Russians, and I believe there is a real reason why. Now I could be wrong with my reason why, which I'm going to get into in a moment, but I want to show you this first. Check out first this report from SputnikNews.com. Perilous strategy, Hillary bashing Russia to, quote, score campaign points. Here's another, investors.com. Hillary Clinton pre-blames Russians for her November loss. Here's another, politica.com. Hillary Clinton claims that Donald Trump invited the Russians to, well, hack America. So I think we're seeing a picture here. Things are continually being blamed on the Russia. Here's another by RT.com. Guccifer 2.0 angry about his DNC hack being blamed on the Russians. Now, that's just a tidbit of information on the Russians. Now check out, here is Hillary Clinton during the presidential debate blaming the Russians once again. And I'm just going to play it in an audio form.
You've seen reports. Russia's hacked into a lot of things. China's hacked into a lot of things. Russia even hacked into the Democratic National Committee. Maybe even some state election systems. So we've got to step up our game. Make sure we are well defended and able to take the fight to those who go after us. As president, I will make it clear that the United States will treat cyber attacks just like any other attack. We will be ready with serious political, economic, and military response.
Ooh, military response. All right, Miss Hillary Clinton, and you're not alone. You got your buddy Obama with you there that has been instigating for quite some time. How is Russia responding to these continued allegations? Well, according to a report I put out a couple days, you can find this via Google Translator on an actual Russian news source, as you've seen on the screen there. But in this particular report, they detail how 40 million people are conducting a drill in Russia. Now, I did a YouTube video on this in more detail a couple of days ago, but case in point, 40 million people, including all different, citizens and whatnot. Well, they're practicing going to bunkers in the event of some kind of war. But never fear, we don't have bunkers for us here in America. That's just for the Russians because, our government cares so much. Here's another report by InfoWars. U.S. Army chief threatens war with the Russians. Another InfoWar report, Russia tells citizens nuclear war with the West could happen very soon. Ergo, the reason for the 40 million people participating in the drill. Though it is just a drill, it is to be taken serious. On PrepperFortress.com, Russian Prime Minister warns U.S.-Russia countries invading Syria will start new world war. All of us are now in grave danger. All right, so I've showed you first and foremost how they're blaming things on the Russia. I showed you how Russia is responding. Now, I also know there are lots of biblical prophecies out there. Just Google Dmitry Duduman, David Wilkerson, these kinds of people, and about war with Russia. Many foretold a coming war with Russia that, quite frankly, is chilling. Now, before I get into the rest of it, let me share my theory that the left, quite frankly, isn't going to like. Now, I heard this rhetoric once before, people being blamed for a particular event. And in this case, Hillary Clinton's not only blaming Russia, but as you saw, she's blaming Donald Trump and Rightwing Extremist website. Let me read to you a report from thedailycaller.com. This is your icing on the cake. Now, this is Hillary campaign vows to destroy oppositional website. The Clinton campaign set out a fundraising email urging or arguing that Breitbart News has no right to exist. And quite frankly, if Hillary gets in, she's threatening to shut it down. Now, the email read, "We've had a conservative media in this country for a while." And that was sent by Christina Reynolds, the Deputy Communications Director. She says, "I don't always like what they have to say, but I respect their role and their right to exist." Reynolds' acknowledgement that, well, conservative media has the right to exist is used to contrast Breitbart, which apparently doesn't have a right to exist. The response? "Breitbart is something different," she said. "They make Fox News look like a Democratic Party pamphlet. They're a different breed altogether. Not just conservative, but radical, bigot, anti-Muslim, anti-Semitic conspiracy peddlers who never have been and never should be anywhere near the levels of power in this country." Now, that was sent by the Clinton campaign. If Breitbart is far right, what is InfoWars? What are channels like mine, who never ever push violence? I don't push for violence. I don't push anything of that nature. Yet Breitbart is being told they can't exist. Now, that obviously came out, I think, a couple of weeks to months ago. But just to show you, not only is it the Russians, but the right-wing extremists. Now, she specifically, in a report I showed you earlier, she tied Donald Trump, who she calls obviously working in league with Breitbart, in league with the Russians. And oftentimes, there are also reports of linking InfoWars to the Russians, Donald Trump to the Russians. Do you notice a pattern here? Anyone who is a right-winger, so to speak, and they're not even far right. None of these people are on your far right. Like Hitler was very far right and obviously off the deep end. And then you have your far left. Well, we may lean more right, but that doesn't mean we're, all the way on the right like Hitler. Never advocate anything. All we are is people who stand for freedom. But here's what I see, and quite frankly, it terrifies me. Well, let me show you one last report. This report is on theimproper.com. Hillary Clinton basement dwellers anatomy, right-wing smear. Right-wing smear. And then one by thedailybeast.com. Refugees say right-wing California sheriff intimidated them at gunpoint. So here you see right-wingers already being targeted. So here's my point, and then I want to get into what's happening a little bit in Germany. Hillary Clinton and people on the far left are blaming not only Russia, but right-wing extremists, and even to the point where they don't have a right to exist. Here's what I see. I see war being instigated with Russia. Quite frankly, we don't need to instigate war with another superpower. Just my thought, and I'm sure you concur. Here's what I also see. I also see people like Hillary Clinton on the far left and Obama saying that any conspiracy theorist, anyone with a nationalism, patriotic, conservative, Christian view or anything near that, well, they're in league with the Russians. In league with the Russians. The ones that are being instigated. I don't know a single Russian. Never met. Don't. I'm sure somebody's got Russian blood somewhere, but I don't have anything to do. A little guy. No. And so here we have them blaming a certain group of people on a Russian, saying they're in league with the Russians. Where have I heard that rhetoric before? Oh, I know. Hitler, someone who himself was very far right, and rightly so. However, he was blaming at the time everything on a people group, the Jews, blaming it all on the Jews. And here we have, the banks, the problems that we're in, the economic issues. Well, that's the Jews' fault because they are the bankers, right? And so that was his forte. Well, I hear similar rhetoric coming from the left saying, well, Russia wants to start a war, no, they're instigating a war with Russia. And then they're saying that we're in league with Russia. People who are just conservative, Christian, patriotic people. Now, I don't like everything Putin does. There are some good things, there are some bad things he does, and I don't agree with all his policies. Okay, and I fear for our country from the Russian bear, and the Bible has a lot to say about that. And here's the thing, what if they did end up provoking a war with Russia and Russia did come down on our soil? What if then they started saying, oh, there's a bunch of spies, Russian spies, and then they started arresting everyone in opposition to their political view? What if? I don't know if that would happen, but I can't help but shake the thought, I guess, that it's a possibility. Because I've seen this rhetoric before. And this is the same rhetoric we're getting. Is this a way to deal with their opposition where the dumbed down sleeping half of America will go, yeah, arrest them. They are in league with the Russia. They're Russians. Until someone comes knocking at your door for your political opposition and then one of their buddies get arrested. Then maybe it will be real and everybody's going to be on edge. Say if there were bombs set off by the Russians because of some instigation, or America set off bombs there and they retaliated, or whatever the case may be. There could be a blame game going on and not even legit. And they'll plant evidence. They'll plant evidence on whatever political opposition they want to get rid of. Just a thought. Now, just a disclaimer as well. I don't know that that will happen, so please don't go pulling your hair out scared and frightened in fear. Don't do that. I don't know. I'm just asking the question. What is your thought? What is your take on it? I surely hope that that's not something they do. And, you know, I don't like asking that kind of question, but nonetheless, I think it's one that needs to be addressed. Let's take what happened in Germany recently. Here's a news report out of Spiegel. German prosecutors go after right-wing terrorism. Here's another on CNBC.com. These are all this year, folks. Right-wing extremism is hitting the German economy. Hitting the German economy. It looks like they're already going after proclaimed right-wing extremism. Now let me say, I'm not a right-wing extremist. I'm not. I don't agree with any form of violence. I don't promote violence. I never will. But at the same time, I see, you know, this rise of fear against right-wing extremism, if that makes sense, whether you are really on the right or not. Because you believe in a more patriotic view or have a more conservative Christian slant, means you could be pushed more in that direction, in a direction that's not even legit, that you are not even, that's not even you. Like, I am not a right-wing extreme terrorist. I don't promote that stuff. I never would. And I have to make this disclaimer with the amount of data that I'm bringing, but I do fear that one day people like us could get lumped into something like that, even though we don't have that kind of thread in our body. Now, I pray that that never happens, and I could be wrong, absolutely. But I think some of you may feel the same way. Anyhow, I wanted to bring you the latest on that. I know it's a very touchy subject for me to discuss, but I'm just asking the question. Anyhow, thanks again for tuning in. Please don't forget to check out my sponsors and make sure you are prepared. Prepare. If it hits the fan, you might need to bug out or bug in or whatever the case may be, but make sure you're prepped with food, water, medical supplies, all of that. And I don't advocate anything I don't do myself. Foodforliberty.com/haven is who I use. Great stuff, and it helps fund what I do here as a partner. They are a partner. There's also another partner of mine is getthetea.com, and you want to make sure your health is good and up to par. So if push comes to shove, you're ready with a clean bill of health. So make sure you go to getthetea.com and check out some of those products as well. Also, Prodovite is another one. I'll leave information on that below. Well, thanks again for tuning in. This is Lisa Haven signing off.